T-Wolves exorcise the demons and take down the Suns in game one. I got our Wolves expert, Tyler Metcalf. He's going to help us break it all down. It's all coming up next on the Locked On Wolves POSTCAST.
You are Locked On Wolves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Woo! What's up? What's up? Back in the lab, back at it. Another T-Wolves POSTCAST episode right here on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Network. You got myself, Luke Inman, at Luke_Spinman. That's the man right there in the flesh, Tyler Metcalf. He's on X, at Team Metcalf11. And Tyler, before we jump into all this action, quick reminder, today's episode brought to us by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, an official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Right now, new customers, you're getting $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. Check it all out. Visit FanDuel.com/lockdown. Okay, buddy, game one at the Target Center. Everyone knew what was on the line. We heard the storylines all week long. Suns come into this one with all the hype, all the attention, all the love, sweeping this Wolves team, obviously 3-0 prior in the regular season. And even though they're on the road, okay, and they're the lower seed, if you checked Vegas before this one, the Suns were the favorite in this series, which I think spoke a lot of volumes to a lot of people, especially the Minnesota Timberwolves team itself. So electric atmosphere from the jump in this one. Target Center, absolutely rocking every single minute. And the Wolves, I mean, it really felt like they took home court advantage and ran with it. They came out fast and furious. They dominated all the key areas, rebounds, fast break points, field goal percentage, you name it. Wolves were the better team today, top to bottom. They go into the locker room up 10. Credit to the Suns, man. I mean, hey, they're the 6th seed for a reason. They got Kevin Durant, Devin Booker. Who's kidding who? They would not go quietly into the night. They got this down to 4-point lead, deficit, I should say, in the third quarter. Not enough, though, in the end. Suns, they waved the white flag. 3:37 left in the fourth quarter with Ant steal and dunk to go up 20. That was your dagger. A massive win in game one for the Wolves. That's really kind of tough to put into words, but we'll try our best here for the next 30 minutes. Tyler, just kick us off. Biggest takeaways from what we just watched go down.
Anthony Edwards is that dude. The way he took over that third quarter was incredible. We can nitpick some of the stuff with him later in the episode, but my God, what a performance by that young man. Just single-handedly took over that game, at least on offense. And while the rest of the team is a real high-level concerted team effort on defense and on the boards, they dominated Phoenix on the boards for the first time all season, where they 59 rebounds to 34.
Jeez.
That is an outlandish differential. And the last couple games, turnovers have been a big issue. They had fewer turnovers in this game than they had in the first half of their last game against the Suns. Offensive rebounds to the Suns have been an issue. They allowed 3 tonight. So from top to bottom throughout this roster, I know we can nitpick with some of the shooting from Conley, some of the offensive fouls with Cat, but no one on this team had a out and out awful game. Every single player showed up.
Obviously, we weren't there, and by all means, there's so much to sift through here. We got to dive into. I'm going to keep things moving best I can, but obviously, you and I weren't there, right? We weren't live at the Target Center, but the amount of times Michael Grady and Jim Pete commented on how loud the Target Center was throughout the entire game, that had to have played a huge factor in this one, right? I mean, seriously, how important is it to not just have the home court advantage come playoff time, but to have the crowd influence the setting so much like they did today?
Yeah, and that's where the real home court advantage comes from, because obviously you don't have to travel and stuff, but in the playoffs, when you're in the same city for a couple of days, that whole travel is a little less than in the regular season when you're bouncing from city to city. The real home court advantage comes from those fans. And back in the when KD, Westbrook, Harden were in OKC, those arenas were incredible. And tonight's crowd had that similar vibe. Had that similar noise where it's like, oh my God, this place is absolutely electric. And every little misstep by the Suns, they erupted. Every big bucket by the Wolves, they erupted. The fans were incredible, and we were talking before we went on air, and it's like, God, we just really envious that we weren't able to be in person there.
Yeah, unbelievable. Props to all the Wolves fan in attendance for this one, without a doubt. If you got to see that one live, that's something I'm sure you won't forget for a long, long time. All right, you kind of teed it up at the top. You teased it. We got to talk about Ant a little bit more. What did we just witness as far as a maturation process or growth from him? Because here's a guy who he seems so destined for stardom, right? Everybody knows it, but yet we all know he's not quite there yet. Despite all the flashes, it's just not on a consistent day-to-day, game-to-game kind of basis. But today, man, it just really felt like he busted through to that next level, right? He just added a new level to his game because he's finally got this signature playoff win he can put on his resume here. And the way he went toe-to-toe with Kevin Durant, one of the best players in the NBA history, unloaded the clip, 33 points, 9 boards, 6 assists. That was exactly what you were waiting for if you're a T-Wolves fan that's followed this team throughout the entire year. How special of a moment did we just get to witness in this man's young career?
It's going to be one that's so far, hopefully it doesn't remain here. But right now, it's probably at the top of his highlight reel. And when you go to iconic games, big time Anthony Edwards performances, there hasn't been one that matches this. Given the stakes, 33 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists. He did have 6 turnovers. We can get into that later. But 33 points on 24 shots is huge, and only 2 free throws. So it wasn't like he was just feasting at the line. It's not an inflated stat line. He was getting tough bucket after tough bucket in every single area of the floor. He was crashing the boards. He was playing defense. He was being a defensive playmaker. The dagger, steal, and dunk on Kevin Durant at the end there. It was big. It was really big. And it was a maturity and a self-awareness from him that we don't typically see from guys his age. He's been really passive in this matchup all season. And that just wasn't the case tonight. Yeah, there's some ball security issues that will probably persist throughout this series and probably throughout the playoffs for him. But he felt the moment, and he knew that he had to be more aggressive, really get to his shots, and take over the game, and not just step aside when they threw multiple bodies at him like he has all year.
I want to jump back to the kind of games within the game here for a minute, because even though after those 3 brutal games versus this same Suns team earlier, right, especially not that long, a week ago, game 82, it was pretty evident, at least in my opinion, the Wolves played with a lot of amnesia, right? They were able to kind of wipe the slate clean coming into this game 1, and they clearly took care of business all week long, too, at practice. They came in with the right mindset, the right aggressive attitude this time that they didn't have in game 82 specifically. That was far from the case today, right? I mean, they played fast, like we talked about, 9-0 advantage in fast break points to start the first half. They played physical, as you mentioned, 16-2 second chance point advantage, 27-14 rebound advantage just to start the first half. And most importantly, man, I mean, this is probably what we should spend most of the time talking about. The bench. They were just so massive, specifically Naz Reid. They were both game changers on both ends of the court today. That's a recipe. You put all that stuff in a bowl, you pop it in the oven. Hey, that's a recipe for success. That's how you snap out of a funk and you win playoff basketball. So, of those things, I guess, and we can do a little bit more of a deep dive into each one, but which area of the game, I guess, impressed you the most today, especially considering how much they struggled in their previous matchup with the Suns team? Because there's a lot of great stuff to choose from here.
Yeah, and I think the one that really stands out is how they were really able to maximize their size advantage tonight. Yeah. We mentioned the rebounds earlier, but points in the paint, 52-34, and bench points, 41-18. A lot of that is because of Naz Reid, like you said, but even Nickeil Alexander-Walker coming off the bench, that's positional size at the point when Conley was struggling or in foul trouble. And Nickeil was able to step right in, use his size, defend basically everyone on the court, force turnovers, knock down big shots. The way that they were really able to impose themselves, and even Cat, I think, is the second quarter, they just kind of kept going to him in the post over and over and over again. He got to the line a bunch. He got some easy buckets around the rim. He had some really nice assists when they sent the double. this was the first time where it really felt like, oh, the Wolves are really freaking big across basically every position, and they're really able to abuse that mismatch and take advantage of it in every single area of the floor. It was just a really measured and mature approach from them that we haven't really seen against the Suns yet.
Just real quick, the one guy I thought they were going to have to lean on was a veteran like Mike Conley. He's so young, so inexperienced roster and team, even your studs, right? Come playoff time, you got to lean on the veteran, right? The crafty vet, Mike Conley. 2 of 12, bro. What? 0 of 3 from 3-point? 0 of 4? Yeah, 0 of 3. 5 personal fouls. I know you touched on it, but I guess how huge is it to win a game by this margin, no less, knowing that the crafty vet, the guy that you probably thought you were going to have to lean on in certain areas. I'm not saying like, oh, we got to lean on Mike Conley to be the leading point scorer, but you know what I mean, to be kind of the glue of everything. How important was that in a night, or I should say in a game where he struggled so much, to win in that kind of margin, in that kind of fashion? That was huge.
Yeah, it's critical, and it's something that typically when Mike Conley has a really bad night, the Wolves have lost this year. It's
Right.
typically been that
Right.
simple. But even like the shot wasn't falling, some weird foul decisions by him in this game too. But then we look at the playmaking and the decision making, 7 assists to 1 turnover. That's huge, especially in this matchup where they've been forcing so many turnovers from the Wolves. He was still that stabilizing presence, and I know he was only 2 of 12, but I love that 12 shot attempt number. That shows that he was aggressive. He was getting downhill. He missed a lot of floaters, a lot of bunnies around the rim, which is kind of uncharacteristic for him. I expect those to fall eventually. But the fact that he is that aggressive, that it keeps the defense honest. It doesn't allow them to kind of turn off when guarding him. And it just forces them to kind of throw a little more effort his way, which then leads to opportunities for him to flare the ball out, kick it up, or dump it off to Rudy and generate, those 6-7 assists like he did tonight.
All right. Speaking of Rudy, last one, then we'll move on to segment 2. Finch always says it. We may not win because of Rudy, but we don't lose because of him. How big was he, man? I mean, 16 boards. He had like 10 boards going in the locker room. 16 boards to finish. 14 points, plus 19 in the plus minus. 6 for 7 at the stripe as well. That's always a big part of his game that you kind of got to just cross your fingers about. But Rudy Gobert, man, how clutch was he in game 1 in a game you needed to win at home?
Absolutely massive. And so much of the narrative with this series was, oh, how is Rudy going to hold up defensively? It's like, what are we talking about? Have we not watched this dude be the best defensive player in the league all season long? Like, yeah, he's not super fleet of foot like Naz Reid. Not many guys that size are. But the way that he is still able to move and defend on the perimeter all season long, showed up again tonight. And every time he got switched out onto Durant or Booker or Beal or anyone on the perimeter, the Timberwolves didn't care. They're like, all right, Rudy will hold his own. He'll move his feet. He'll make the right decision. He's not going to get lazy and throw out a dumb foul or, he's going to get scored on because those are 3 of the best bucket getters in the league. But he held his own. He poked the ball away from Durant that led to that Ant steal and dunk.
Right.
He's fantastic. That quote that you threw out there by Finch is incredibly accurate because the defensive identity and consistency that he brings to this Timberwolves team every single game cannot be understated. It is so important, and it's the big reason why they are the team that they've been all year.
Oh, well said. Perfectly said. All right, plenty more deep dive on the Wolves' Game 1 win versus the Phoenix Suns. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, today's episode brought to us by FanDuel. This is America's #1 sportsbook and official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Right now, it's playoff time in the NBA and NHL, not to mention baseball's in full swing. That means FanDuel is your #1 place to be to bet on all the action. Check this out. Right now, new customers, you're getting $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. $150, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on the app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Hey, we should touch on this real quick. Two semi-big injuries went down today. We should probably talk about. Kyle Anderson went down with this hip pointer injury in the second quarter. He did not return. Grayson Allen for the Suns, he rolled his ankle in the third quarter. He ran straight to the locker room. He didn't return to the bench either. How huge are both those for each team individually, I guess? And what's the ripple effect, I guess, for game two if either of those guys can't give it a full go, get the green light? And granted, too, you got 2 full days of resters, so we'll see how this shakes out. But worst case, if either or both those guys can't go, what's that ripple effect look like?
Yeah, and I would kind of imagine both of them are able to go by Tuesday. If not, I would imagine the Grayson Allen injury is a little more important for the Suns. He's shooting 46% on just under 6 attempts a game from 3 this year. Those are absurd numbers, and having that outlet on mid-range for mid-range scorers like Durant, like Beal, like Booker, that's huge. And we saw once I know he didn't make a shot tonight, but once he was out, their kind of 3-point threat went away a lot because guys were able to stay home a little more consistently, able to then help off, win and provide a little more aggressive gap help when guys drove, similar to how Phoenix defends Ant a lot. Because Eric Gordon at this point in his career just doesn't present that same threat, that same fear that he once did. Royce O'Neal shot really well tonight, but he's not that 46% shooter that Grayson Allen is, where you have to stay home on him. And Allen's punched them a ton in the past. So Kyle Anderson's really important for this Wolves team with his maturity, decision-making. We know his versatility. But we saw how kind of easily they were able to fill in his absence today, and I think that's just a little harder for the Suns to do.
Yeah, well said. Good breakdown there. We should talk about Karl Anthony Towns. Just your overall thought. I mean, we could honestly spend the entire 30 minutes on, all his playoff history with the bad fouls, the turnovers, sloppy play, all that stuff. So went without saying, everyone knew how important it was for him to come out and not just play a good game for Cap, but play a clean game, right? Be efficient, limit the stupid turnovers and fouls like we've seen in years past and kind of grown accustomed to. I thought he was solid in game one. I mean, you look at the box score, everybody's going to point out, hey, Naz Reid was plus 22 in the plus minus. Cat, he was -2. So there are some things to nitpick, but all in all, kind of set the tone to be that number, 2 scorer and playmaker next to Ant today for the most part. I guess, what's your letter grade kind of overall thoughts on him and what he's going to mean for this team, to this team, the next couple games in the playoffs?
Yeah, I thought he had a really good game. I would get, B plus in that kind of range. 19 points on 9 shots. That's incredible efficiency. Got to the line, or 8 free throw attempts, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, only 2 turnovers. That's huge. A couple of those offensive fouls. It's like, really, in this game, the way you've been calling it, we're going to call that now? Yeah. Whatever. But I thought his decision-making was a lot more simple than it typically is. He didn't overcomplicate things. He took what the defense gave him. And we saw how effective he was once they did get him down in the post and how they were able to kind of manipulate the Suns defensive coverage, whether it was having guys cut behind that double team or him just going one-on-one and either getting an easy bucket or getting to the line. So I thought he had a really good game. He doesn't need to be putting up 30 plus in this matchup. I think there'll be opportunities for him to do so, especially when, Ant has those drive and kick opportunities. But as long as he kind of maintains that composure, just plays simple, is decisive with what he's doing, and keeps those turnover numbers low, I think he's in a really good spot.
That was the other thing, by the way, about Anthony Edwards, man. Obviously 33 points, the 9 rebounds, 4 for 8 from 3, but the assists, man, the ball movement was so crispy today, finding the open man, kicking it over, and just giving his teammates a lot of clean looks, man. Just can't say enough about Anthony Edwards today. I asked a lot of people all week, who's got it, not who's going to be the X factor, who's got to be the X factor, and not just game one, but this entire playoffs for the Wolves. I heard multiple answers, right? I got a bevy of different options. That said, Jaden McDaniels was one of the more popular answers, I think. If you polled a lot of people, he's got to be the A+ version of Jaden McDaniels, more or less, is what I heard from a lot of people. How huge was he today on both ends of the court? And who was your X factor, by the way, heading into this series?
I'd probably say Jaden
Yeah,
heading
that was
into
kind
the
of the
series.
common theme there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an easy go-to. He's going to get 35-ish minutes a night.
Mhm.
And a lot of what the Timberwolves have been able to do this year is swung on his performances. His defense tonight was otherworldly. And he's doing it all without fouling, and that's a big aspect. And I know it's so incredibly easy for us to be like, oh, just don't foul. Like, oh, just tamper down the aggressiveness. Um, but for him to, because when you're contesting and defending and competing every single possession the way he is, and you're going against shot makers like Devin Booker, like KD, they're going to make some impossible shots where they just leave you speechless. And to go at them possession after possession after possession, it's crucial. And it's just what he has to do. It's a thankless job. It's not a sexy job. He doesn't get the standing ovations and the highlight reels like Anthony Edwards will after tonight. But what he did on defense, making life incredibly difficult for Devin Booker, for KD, for Bradley Beal, was just as important to this win. And then just getting 9 points, 6 rebounds is huge from him. Didn't shoot it really, but some of those times where he's able to get downhill, attack closeouts, get into the middle of the paint, it wouldn't shock me if he has a couple games up around the 15-point mark this series.
Yeah, and so much was made. We talked so much about just the missed opportunity last playoffs after obviously he punched the wall, that whole fiasco. Not for him, not just to like, oh, you're not getting these valuable, precious playoff minutes under your belt, these playoff reps under your belt, but just to have him out on the court, just to help you win, the advantage he brings. He was absolutely huge, and I thought you nailed it. The defense specifically, like you're always going to get, but man, just to see it notch up just a little bit come playoff time. Oh, dude, that was so special to watch. That was so fun. All right, don't go anywhere. We got to preview game 2. That's coming up Tuesday. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, today's episode brought to you by eBay Motors. What brings home the winning trophy is what also keeps your ride or die alive. And eBay Motors, they got everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to the ultimate peak performance. From superchargers to roof racks, eBay Motors, they got it all. And with over 122 million parts, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's guaranteed fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay's guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers. What were one or two of the biggest differences you saw watching playoff basketball versus the regular season? I mean, we just watched 82 regular season games. We just got our first taste of playoff basketball now. Like you always hear, okay, they're going to swallow the whistle a lot more, which means more physical play, et cetera, et cetera. Did you think that was the case here today? And I guess what else stuck out to you as far as maybe just things kicking into a higher gear come playoff time?
Yeah, and especially in that first quarter, it felt like, wow, they're letting them play. And Anthony Edwards only having 2 free throw attempts, given his shot selection, was something. And there's been a lot of talk about the refs kind of altering their tendencies after the All-Star break. It felt like that went even a step further in this game. So I'm cool with it as long as it's consistent. That's the only thing is. Are you going to call it tight? Are you going to let them play? I don't really care. As long as it's the same whistle from start to finish, I'm good with it.
Yeah, no, well said there. Best play, best moment of the game today was what? What's the one thing you'll always remember from game 1 when we look back? I mean, I'm not trying to blow this whole thing out of proportion here, but dude, we're having fun, okay? Some Minnesota Timberwolves, all right? Let us enjoy this game 1, Absolutely. No matter what happens from here on out. So I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment, anything like that, but for me and my money, it's tough not to go with Anthony Edwards knocking down those threes in Kevin Durant's face and then talking some smack all the way back on the other end of the court. But Big Jelly, Naz Reid, he needs a little spotlight and love here too. Fast break, reverse layup, puts a little extra sauce, a little extra flavor on there. That was absolute fire. That should be SportsCenter top 10. We'll see how it all shakes out. But bottle that feeling up after that moment, after that play, you're a millionaire by tomorrow. What about you? Which player moment really stuck out the most to you today?
Yeah, it's got to be Ant hitting the three in Kevin Durant's face and then backpedaling, pounding his chest, talking his smack, and KD just smiling at it, appreciating it. It's exactly what you want to see in these types of games. It's so much fun. It's, I'm not going to go as far as to say passing of the torch yet, but it kind of feels like it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously just one game, but God, that was fun. And it's just the personalities really shining from both those guys. And that was kind of at the end of the stretch where Anthony Edwards just went full superstar mode.
All right, game 2 now on deck. That's Tuesday night, 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time tip-off. Give us the big preview. What are you looking for as far as the Wolves? What are they switching up the most, whether that's a specific matchup or a specific part of the game, whatever it may be? Even though they won by as many as they did, what do they still need to work on and clean up a little bit if they're going to win this series?
Anthony Edwards is passing and ball security still has to get better. His aggressiveness overall tonight was fantastic, but 6 turnovers. It's still bad. He's still, he's still not finding Rudy on some of those lobs where they send those doubles at him. Rudy's open on a lot of those kind of rim run attempts. And the only times that Ant feels comfortable, it seems like he feels comfortable finding Rudy is on those pocket passes where Rudy's out past the free throw line. And that's the exact spot that you do not want to be giving Rudy Gobert the ball. The 1 or 2 times that he tried that ended up in a turnover. So can Ant continue to maintain this similar level of aggressiveness, but simplify his decision making, trust Rudy run into the rim a little more, trust his ability to throw a lob a little more, and just secure the ball in traffic, because it was the only kind of hole in his game tonight.
And what about playing off what they did the best then in game 1 after what we just saw? What do they need to continue to focus on, come X's and O's kind of specifically, players wise, whatever it may be? What do they got to keep hammering away at if they're going to beat this team in a 7-game series?
The defense. It's their identity. The shot making tonight, especially from 3, was fantastic. Is Nikhil going to shoot 4 of 9 every night from 3? Probably not, but he's been a really good shooter all year. So there'll be a couple games in this series where their outside shot isn't falling. But as long as their defense is continuing to show up, and their defense and specifically their rebounding continues to show up like it did tonight, they're going to be sitting in a really good spot. They're not going to have, I would expect at least one of these games, all 3 of KD, Beal, and Booker go off and they get hot. It's going to happen. That's how good they are. But as long as they can continue to defend these guys at a really high level on their own and not get caught in overhelping and scramble situations, I think they're going to be in a really good spot, because when they find themselves in those situations, that's when guys like Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal and Eric Gordon start getting in a rhythm, because they get 5 or 6 wide open threes in a row. And now they're up to 10 to 18 points. And that's when it becomes a killer.
I didn't get your pre-playoff prediction. Were the Wolves going to win? How many games? All that. But just after seeing both these teams now, as much as we have, not just today, but really all season long now, 4 straight head-to-head matchups, do you feel like the Wolves are not only the better team, just overall, top to bottom, but do you think they're going to win this series? And then again, kind of exercise some of these playoff demons now?
God, I hope so.
Too early to tell, or still on the fence? 50-50?
Coming into this game, I was Wolves in 7. I thought it was going to be the best series of this first round. Yeah. These teams are so fun and just very different methods of playing defense and offense. I'm still sticking to 7 because I don't want to overreact to just one game, but maybe 6. The Suns are going to grab a couple, but I do think top to bottom, and especially the bench unit, we talked about it earlier, but especially the difference in the depth on this team when it comes to the bench, I think Minnesota just far surpasses them. And in those minutes, that's where they can really start to run away with these games.
Yeah, I'd say about 67% of the comments in the stream today talking about how the Wolves have this huge advantage when it comes to bench, right? When it comes to both these teams' depth and bench, and hopefully that is one of the biggest X factors and ultimately helps them win this series. Final parting thoughts before we get out of here, Tyler. Again, Wolves exercise these demons. Game 2, Target Center, Tuesday night. X factors, injuries, you name it. Just kind of empty the clip here, put it all on the table. Anything else top of your mind after this one?
Just one game, but enjoy it. That one game could not have gone much better. So that's really fun. I'm fascinated to see what version of Devin Booker we get on Tuesday, because I don't suspect he's going to be 5 of 16 again. I don't suspect he's going to have 4 fouls again. So Wolves did a fantastic job kind of taking him out of his rhythm today. If they're allowed to play with that same type of physicality, they don't bite on shot fakes. They don't start committing shooting fouls all over the place. That's one of the matchups I'm really fascinated to see in game 2.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the atopic matchups for sure. Still interested and intrigued. Keep your eyes peeled. Does Grayson Allen end up playing game 2? Again, 2 days rest? Probably will. T-Wolves exercise the demons. They smashed the Phoenix Suns in game 1, 120-95. Couple days of rest now. Then it's game 2, Tuesday night, back at home. Tip off for that one, 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. As always, huge shout out to all you guys that joined us on the stream. Rest assured, we're going to be back each and every game, same time, same place, right here to break it all down. And quick reminder, go check out all of Tyler's work on X at TMetcalf11. Anything up there right now? Anything that you're going to be working on? T-Wolves, NBA playoffs in general? Anything we can go check out?
Just canishoopus.com. Team has awesome stuff going up, as always.
Yeah, love it. Plus, make sure you always check out the entire crew on the Minnesota Basketball Party. That's each and every Wednesday. Already can't wait for that next episode to drop. And Ben Beacon, always ripping it up over on the Locked On Wolves podcast. That's each and every day as well. All right, that'll do it for us today. He's Tyler Metcalf. I'm Luke Inman on X at Luke_Spinman. We'll see you for game 2, but until then, signing out.